Hey everyone, I'm going to help you a little bit on merge arrays. Let me show you something here first of all. Let's go over the assignment. I think might be a way to do this to get started. A couple things I want to point out is that you're going to have two arrays, but they're all going to be positive integers. That means greater than 0. I guess we're going to exclude 0. You got to input them from the keyboard. This is all stuff that you should already know how to do. You could do that in a for loop pretty easily. You're going to assume that the maximum length of the array is 10,000 elements. They kind of do this for a reason. There's a way to do this without going all the way up to 10,000, but I don't want to go into that right now. But obviously, you're not going to put in 10,000 things. When you enter a 0 or a negative number, you should disregard any of those things. So what I did is I just made mine that if you put in a 0 or a negative number, that it just exited the program, or sorry, it exited putting in any more items into the array is basically what it did. So it took the negative value, but it didn't put it in the array is what it did. The arrays should be in increasing order. That's kind of messes people up because if you were to put in the numbers for the array and you put in like 5 and then a 2 and then a 7 and then a 1, you can't do this, or at least they don't want us to do this here. So you have to actually put them in order. So make sure you do that. Make sure the elements in each array have been entered in order. Yep. So then basically what we want to do is we want to merge these two arrays from lowest to highest and then print out the original. So print out the original arrays first of all, and then followed by the merged array. So let's go over some of the things that I think you're going to have to know how to do. Let me actually show you some of the stuff that I actually put in. Let's see if I can make this a little smaller actually. This is would actually work for you. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I can get you kind of started, I think. So you kind of basically have your basic start, public static void main and all that. And what you want to do is you want to start up a scanner. You have to start up an array with 10,000 things. I also have this count 1 and count 2 thing. And this is actually something that they recommended in the teacher's manual. And so I thought that's a good idea. That's a slick way to keep track of which item you are at in the array. So then the thing that is going to make everything a lot simpler is if you set every item in the array, all 10,000 things, to the integer.max value. We learned that a bit ago when we were doing the math, but it's going to help because if we set them all to the max value, when we start comparing them one by one, it's going to make putting them in order a lot easier. So, and then basically what we have here, down here, is how to put in the values here. So this is for the first array, enter the values up to 10,000, enter a 0, a negative number to quit. Then what I did is I just said while value is greater than 0, and by the way, you have to start value is equal to 1 here, but while value is equal to 0, or greater than or equal to 0, I just put in scan for the next int. If that's greater than 0, then add it to the array. And then I added one to the count 1 value. Remember that up here. I added one to the count 1 value. What that's going to do is it's going to keep track of how many things are in the array. So I'm not going to have to really know the length of it. I'm just going to add up. Basically, at the end, I'm going to add up the count 1, and I'm going to add up the count 2 right here, and that is going to be the length of my merged array. If I have 5 things up here and I've got 4 things up here, I need 9 spaces in my merged array ultimately. So let's talk a little bit about the merging of the arrays. So basically what you want to do is you're going to have 2 arrays, array 1 and array 2. I hope you can see this. But I'm going to have 4 values here, and I'm going to have 3 values here. So, and in the program, actually, we put them in. We have an input statement, right? What we want to do, basically, is make this third array, we'll just call it array 3, and it's going to have this number of values plus this number. So it's going to have 7 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values. Now what we want to do is we want to start comparing these two arrays 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. But the problem is we can't compare the 0th value to the 0th value, then the first value to the first, 1 value to the 1 value, the 2 value to the, because you're going to run out and it's not going to be correct at all. So what we want to do is we want to start off by comparing the 0 value to the 0 value. And then once we do that and we find out which one is smaller, we want to not compare this value anymore, this 0 value. We want to skip over and start comparing this value. Well, that can be done with another little counter. And what I want to do is, here, let me show you again. See if I can get back here. Hold on a second. So the merged array example I'm going to show you is this one here. And what I did is I have an index for 1, and the index for 1 is the value of this one. This would be index 0, index 1, 0 in this case. Let me show you again on Java, the programming thing here. Index for 1 is at 0. Index for 2 starts at 0. So if you go back over here, so that means I'm going to start index for 1, index for 2. So I'm going to compare A1 and then, what is it? Let me make sure I'm doing this right here. So it's going to be A1, index 1, is that less than or equal to array 2, index 2. Index 2 is also starts at 0. So basically what I'm doing is I am comparing A to 0, is that less than or equal to A2, 0. Let me see this again. Oh, brackets, sorry about that. Yeah, we use brackets. But yeah, we want to see, oh, sorry, right here. So we want to see, is that less than or equal to the same value in array 2? If it is, then what we want to do, so we're going to compare this value basically with this value. That's what this is doing here. If that's the case, then what I want to do, it's not the case. So what I want to do is I want to add this value here down here, which would be easy because all I'm going to do is I'm going to have an if-then statement. But I'm going to say, like, if this is true, then I want to say A3 of 0 in this case is equal to A1 of whatever the index value at that time is. Index, we're going to start at F at 0. So we want to, so it's going to, A2 is equal to the 0th value. Boy, that sounds a lot more confusing than it sounds in my head here. So this was false, so the default was to go down here and actually perform this. Also, once I've done this, I want to increase the A2 index from 0 to 1. So the very next thing I do is instead of using the index 1, or sorry, index 0, I'm going to say the index of index 2, I guess, is plus plus. So now this value was equal to 0, now it's equal to 1. So the next time it goes through, it's still going to compare value index 1 is still 0, so I'm going to compare this. So I'm going to compare this one here. If it's less than or equal to being the operative thing here, now I'm not comparing A2 0 anymore. Now I'm comparing A2 1. So I'm comparing this one and this one. It is equal to each other. So now instead of doing this thing here, the next thing I'm going to do down here is I'm going to say A3, the value at 1, is equal to A1, and I'm going to use that index value, the index 1 value. Index 1 is 0, so it's actually going to put in a 0, right, or index of 0. So this value here is going to be actually carted down here. And then what I do after that is I'm going to increase this index. That's index 1. I'm going to increase that by 1. So now instead of comparing A10 is going to start to, the next time it goes through, it's going to compare A11. So now it goes back through here, and now it's going to, this one here, index 2 is equal to 1, index 1 is equal to 1. So now we're going to compare the 4 and the 2. So this 2 is going to be smaller, so it's going to do this thing down here. It's going to put this 2 into this location because this is the third time we're going through this loop. And then we're going to add 1 to this index thing. So next time we're going to start comparing this value, and it just goes on and on and on until we finally reach the end. The problem with this is that if we compare, let's see how this would actually work out. So I'm going to compare that one. Okay, this is the number 1. So I did that one. Next one is going to come down here. So 2. Now I'm going to do that one. Now I'm going to compare this one. Next one's going to be 2. I've done that. Now I'm going to compare these ones. Next one's going to be 3. Okay. Now I'm going to compare this one, and whoa, there's a problem here. I'm going to compare something that doesn't even exist here. Well, luckily in the question it says there's going to be 10,000 values over here. So it doesn't stop right here. There's actually a lot of values beyond here. A lot of spaces, I should say. And if you were paying attention, I said that what we did at the very beginning is we indexed these, or we set the value of all of these to the max value, the max underscore value thing. So this is, I forget what Ms. Dobie told us right now, but for the maximum integer value, it's a huge, huge number. So this is like a huge, huge number. So this one is, and this one is, and this one is, and this one is. And the same thing is up here. And this goes out to 10,000. So these are huge values. Whatever, like I said, I can't remember what it is. But now when we compare this value with this value, well, since this is the max value, 6 is smaller. So 6 automatically goes in. We're done. Now we haven't indexed this one, but we did index this one. So we're going to compare these two. That's the max value. So we're done. Okay, and then it's going to just stop right there because this was all in a loop for the length of this string. Remember, we had a 4 here, and we had a, what is it, int I is equal to, and then we went up to I is less than or equal to the summation of these two. Remember, this was count 1, this is count 2. So this value right here is going to be count 1 plus count 2. And then you're going to just say I plus plus or whatever. But that's how we're getting these values right here. It starts off with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So basically, in a nutshell, that's how it works. Let me show you this again. Now, of course, this is not going to work if you just copy this down on your own thing. This is just how to merge two arrays that I've created manually. You can see that I set it all up. This one would run into a problem, though, because of the thing I just told you about. It's going to compare some values that aren't there. Let me see if this one, it's kind of hit and miss. Let me see if it's going to work here. Let's run. Yep, look at down there. Errors. I put in a little tester thing that says made it here. So it did actually compare it for a while, but then it ran into a problem. And my guess is that it needs another huge value right here. Let's see here. Yeah. So this one did work. It worked perfectly. And the reason why is because ultimately in the end I needed something to compare here. If you work it out on a piece of paper, you'll see you'll put down this value, and then you put down this value, put down this value, put down this value, and they start to, oh sorry, then we go to this value, and then we'll put down this value, 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then we run out of values here. We have nothing to compare the 8 to. So I needed one more really huge value there. That's why in the other one, I put them all to the max value throughout the entire thing. That's going to help. Hey, well, I hope this helps you. If you don't quite get it, rewatch the video, review the lessons, and the best of luck to you. I know you guys can do it. You just have to think about it. See you next time.